Hello and welcome to this very special edition of Wake Up and Live with the Arts. I'm Sue Johnson along with your co-host James McGilbray. We are so honored and thrilled to welcome home one of Cleveland's own, our guest this evening, Mr. William Cobbs, Wilbert Cobbs, please, excuse me, and he is commonly known as Bill Cobbs. And James, I cannot get over the fact that we are sitting here in the beautiful Glidden House with Bill, who is in town to do a little special project with the Wake Up and Live's Actors Studio. So why don't you welcome Bill from the beautiful Glidden House.
Well, Bill, it's a delight to meet you and to have you here, to have you back in Cleveland, Ohio, where things kind of got started for you.
Well, thank you. It's a delight to be here. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, and how do you like the Glidden House here so far?
This is a great place. This is
one of
really
Cleveland's better kept secrets for a lot of folks. It's off the beaten track, and it's not one of the big hotels such as up and downtown and out on what we call 271 in Chagrin, another hotel motel road.
Well, it's nice because it has the feeling of being here at Western Reserve.
The campus, my old alma mater. Yes.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yes, way back. Way back in the day, before many of these buildings were built.
Okay.
Well, Bill, how often do you get a chance to get back to Cleveland these days?
Not often, maybe once or twice a year. I'm lucky. This time it's been a little over a year. I was here for Stephanie Tubbs Jones's memorial.
Oh, I didn't see you there among the many
Well, there were so many people there. There were a lot of people you didn't see.
I know. Yes, unfortunately, yeah.
Yes. But anyway, it's good to be home.
Well, we are glad to have you here. So how in the world did you happen to leave Cleveland? You're from the old neighborhood, born and reared around the old central neighborhood, and you grew up, and I guess you did some theater work here, got the bug. How'd you end up leaving Cleveland to pursue your passion?
I guess, I started out at Caramel House and working with Margaret Ford Taylor and Dorothy and Ruben Silver, and
Cleveland
Calvin,
legends.
So many people.
Yes, Cleveland
there were
legends.
so many wonderful people there, and I just got involved in the theater and did a few plays there, and it just really inspired me to the point where I realized that I should at least give acting a try. It was something. It was something I loved to do. It was something I really enjoyed. I found that it fulfilled a lot of things that I'd had quite a few other professions. 8 years in the Air Force and IBM, but
you were a radar operator in the radar operator.
Well, actually, repairman.
Repairman. Okay.
Yeah, I repaired long-range search radar, and. So it was just so exciting that I just said, I got to give it a try.
And most people know you, who remember you as a Cleveland car salesman before you made that big leap and you left here. I think New York was your next stop. And one of the things that makes you so admirable in many of our estimations, including mine, is the fact that you were, quote, a little later in life when you decided to really go for it big time. And we have people who seem to think there's a time limit on when you can pursue your passions. Can you address that about going after what your heart speaks to you about?
Well, I think one of the greatest examples to address that is a lady named Leela Danette. And I understand she's still alive. I think she's close to 100 years old.
Okay.
And she started acting when she was in her 60s. And I saw her perform in New York shortly after I got there, and she's wonderful. So I think that dispels any idea of age being a problem.
Yeah, who does it for me is Irma P. Hall. She was a Chicago school teacher, and she really didn't get involved and start making it until she was late 50s. And that she's had her career ever since, and
she's doing quite well.
And I think you told me, that she was in Texas with her own acting school now.
She has her own theater.
With her own theater, yes. Okay. So therefore, it's never too late to go after what you really want.
Well, as long as, in fact, I think Colonel Sanders started his first major operation. He was in his 60s.
He didn't do too bad.
Didn't do too bad. Well, how was the transition going from Cleveland first to New York? You're in California now, but going from Cleveland to New York, what was that transition like?
Well, for me, it was pretty easy. First of all, I didn't have a family to concern myself with, so it was just me. Also, I was so driven that it didn't matter that I didn't have any money and that I really didn't have any kind of security when I got there. I went there. I had a friend who had told me that her brother had a place where I could stay temporarily, and that didn't work out. That wasn't true, and so I kind of roughed it. But it was okay because I was so driven. It didn't matter. It didn't. I was so. Well, many people here had encouraged me to the point where they really, they bolstered me up considerably, and made me feel that I could do it. But now, for young people going now, also at that time in New York, we were just in the midst of the civil rights movement still. I left here in '70, so we were still riding that high that we were on in the '60s. And so there was a lot of theater going on. There was a lot of activity that related to change in the country for all of us, for African Americans and other ethnic groups as well. So we had that going on and that kind of excitement. Now, getting to the people who would leave here today, New York now is a much more expensive city than it was then.
You never said truer words.
And it was very expensive then. Okay, now if I were to advise young people today, I would say, go to New York, which is what I did. I went there and visited for a week. I did that once or twice before I moved there. So I had an idea about what it was going to be. But also, now I would say to any young person or whoever that wants to go there, be sure that you have you save some money, and make sure that you before you take off to go there, establish where you're going to live. And then be it ever so humble, there's no place like home, but at least know where it's going to be. And one thing about New York is when I was there, we never did look down on anybody because of where they lived. Because if you had a place to live, you had a roof over your head, you were into something.
Because that was, when you think back, I forget the crew, but folks like Dustin Hoffman and Al Pacino and the folks who came along together at a certain, they all slept on the same floor and the same cot.
Sure.
Because they had your same kind of ambition, and they finally made it.
Well, now, but when you went to New York, it's a different thing. When we think about New York, we think stage, Broadway, lots of theater. But then you go to LA or Hollywood, there's a lot of film, there's a lot of television. Both places, I'd imagine, would be quite expensive to live in. But if, can you tell me the difference you found between living in New York and the acting culture there versus that in LA and Hollywood?
I found that those of us who went to New York were blessed because we spent so much time working in the theater. And so we learned theater and we learned our craft. I think, generally speaking, that's not to say that people in California don't learn their craft or didn't learn their craft, but it was just that the fact that we were primarily concerned with theater, we were getting the kind of fundamental background that would see us through television and